We're live. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Jake.
So this is not as good a morning as yesterday. So I got to tell everybody what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I sat next to Mike,
Mhm.
like in person, in an office. I
3D.
turned to my side and he was there. So I just want to confirm to everybody, Mike still exists. This is not AI Mike.
I'm not a holographic projection.
We're all vaxxed. We had a management meeting. We all got together. I've never been so excited to have a management meeting.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, we had like 4 hours of meetings, and I don't think anybody cared.
Right. I mean, it was like, oh my God, we're in
Mhm.
person. This is amazing. We can eat food together and talk. This is super cool.
And breathe in the same room safely.
And breathe in the same room safely.
Awesome.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I
And I
enjoyed it.
mean, heck of a stretch of weather we're having here too.
Yep. Just in time for me to take next week off. And my
yeah, you're gonna take time off. I'm gonna take time off. It'll be great.
yeah.
And are you musicking while you're off?
I am musicking. My new mixer arrives today, so I'm like, I've got one thing open here to the Amazon package tracking, because if a $700 mixer shows up on my porch, I want to grab it right away before somebody else does.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm going to be doing a lot of mixing.
Yeah, that's
not
smart.
cocktails, music.
Yeah, you do live in the crime-ridden peninsula over there. So
no, I don't. No,
luckily, I'm in Seattle where there's no crime.
That's right.
So no news blast for a week for the first time ever. But we figure, you know what? Post-pandemic, like everybody gets that you're taking a vacation.
Yeah.
And no LinkedIn Live for 2 weeks. So we got to cover a lot today. We do have security awareness training still next week, Friday, noon Pacific. Fred Langston, our EVP of Professional Services, the original security awareness trainer, will conduct the awareness presentation. So
yep, he's good at it too.
Yeah, he's good at it.
Fred and I have been in the security business together for more than 25 years. And as the person that leads our consulting division, that guy has seen a lot of stuff go down. And I think his perspective is actually going to be a nice change up. So,
and you know what? That reminds me, you know what we're doing right now? Last night, JLP, who's your deputy CISO, gave a presentation to the Seattle SIM folks about what it's been like in the last year in incident response. And today he's going to pitch us on, hey, we should do that as a webinar next quarter. I want to hear from folks. Idea. Yeah, it is good. I want to hear from folks in the chat. What do you want us to do for webinars? I like that idea, what it's been like in incident response for the last year. But put in the chat, like, I'm curious, what do you want for webinars? Of course, we'll still do urgent webinars as they come up, when things happen. But I'm curious. So tell us. If you have ideas, put them in the chat. All right. Speaking of things actually going on, Mike, what is up with the airlines? I read it was Southwest. They're having all sorts of problems. One of our employees got stuck in an airport, but now it's not just Southwest. What is going on?
So if you read the story and you don't dig in it, I mean, it can give you pause, right? But, yeah. So it really sounds like the issue is with a bunch of airline websites, and the likely cause is an outage with Akamai. Southwest did have a problem Monday with it was a third-party data provider that with weather forecasting apparently, and they were having some kind of performance issues.
Always a third party.
It is. Well, there's FAA regulations that say if you're not getting this information, you don't fly. That's why they had to ground aircraft. Everything else was just website outages, and it's not just airlines. It included other things like banks. So it's a coincidence, but this one is more a case of broken internet and not cybering.
Good to know. Especially because, events are starting up. We have employees flying places. The conference coming up in,
I have conferences
in Las Vegas
scheduled.
Yep. And hey, I heard there was a meeting yesterday where world leaders talked about cybercrime. We talked about that coming up, but now it happened. We know Biden and Putin met. There's no transcript. They both said things afterwards, but how do you think it went down?
Well, we know from, like you say, the post-meeting press conferences, that there was a clear-eyed discussion that was businesslike and not threatening, while making it clear that we have the same capabilities that the Russians do. And I think the key points I heard were these. And remember, we don't really know what happened in there, right? So. We know the Russians have knowledge, if not direct interaction with their criminal gangs. Okay, that point was underscored. We need to agree that there are certain things that are critical and off limits. And then third, if you step over the line, we're coming back at you. Now, that may sound good and like progress. That has the potential to get out of control. Hacking back sounds like a solution that can rapidly escalate. There's articles popping up more frequently now talk about global banking system and how it can tip over and plunge the entire world into financial chaos. And we've seen this collateral damage before, right? When countries cyber each other, right? Remember Maersk, the shipper, went down for something like 3 weeks, right? That they weren't a target, that was collateral damage. So stuff gets out of control and bleeds over into the private sector. Bad things can happen.
I will say it does seem like the temperature came down in terms of Russia-US rhetoric, which I think is good. Although Russia did accuse the US of cybering, which is weird because I don't remember hearing a bunch of Russian hospitals shut down. But Russia's economic growth, is not on par with the US or with Europe at this point. They need money. It's not like they're going to stop extorting us and stealing things.
Yeah, you're right. But the explicit reference to pipelines that came up, I'm sure had an impact on Putin. Now, I don't know if he said this in the meeting, but Biden said this in the press conference afterward, right? If we get smacked in the infrastructure again, we're going to go after Russian pipelines. And that is nearly Russia's only source of revenue is oil and gas. And they sell that to other countries and pipe it around, right? I'm pretty sure Vlad heard that. And that there may be conversations with criminal gangs going on right now saying, okay, here are the guardrails. Don't jump over this.
Yeah, I think we'll see. I don't know, Mike. We'll see. I think
tactics may change too, right?
Yeah.
Less of knocking down your network and more of stealing your records and holding those for ransom, because it's not destructive. Loss of life doesn't happen by stealing records.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Russia has this, ebb and flow thing. And, what we know from SolarWinds is they were in for a long time before anybody knew. So one of my questions is, what are they in now that we don't know about? So I'm not as optimistic as you sound, but hey, we'll find out. All right, on to another topic that I'm sure people are wondering about, especially since I made it the title of this LinkedIn talk. Are we going to be required to do 24-hour reporting of cyber events, Mike?
We don't know yet, but the legislation is moving forward, and the sponsors are pretty serious about getting this done. I don't think we should freak out about this. Yes, if you report something before all the facts are known, you can shoot yourself in the foot. But we're not talking about public reporting here. This is reporting to CISA, and likely through some kind of like an ISAC mechanism, right? Information Sharing and Analysis Center. And from what I've read, they're taking a page from the financial sector ISAC and insulating those reports from regulatory scrutiny and public disclosure, right? So if you report something and the implication of that report is that you were not compliant with some regulation you were supposed to be meeting, you will be insulated from regulatory impact from that, right? So that's a good thing. So it's not going to be like going on live video and falling on your sword. Right? It'll be much more controlled. And there's going to be a period of figuring out the reporting guidelines. What's a reportable event? Malware on a workstation is not. Business email compromise that results in bank routing numbers for your vendors being changed, definitely is, right?
I mean, I think a lot of people and businesses are going to have opinions on this. There's a comment period for the proposed legislation, and I'd be interested in seeing what people say about this. If you don't report and keep it quiet and clean up, how will the feds know what, and what do the penalties look like if you don't do it? Like, I mean, there has to be some teeth, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah, good questions, but all that is TBD. There will be teeth here. I'm sure there's going to be lots of pushback, and these public comment things. Remember when the FCC one got gamed for net neutrality, and it was a whole bunch of stolen addresses, all used to make exact same comments, right? So public reporting can go south on us too, right? There will be pushback, but this is going to happen in some form. It might not be 24 hours because that doesn't really seem long enough to gather the facts that need to be known. And it might happen at such, an enormous volume that it stretches the resources of CISA to deal with it.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, and boy, yeah, and also, back to what you said, what the definition of a breach is, right? Ugh. The other thing that occurs to me in all of that is, I take our 800 calls. When somebody calls the 800 number, generally I pick up. And, I've talked to plenty of people who call us a week after having a breach, 2 weeks after, and they've known it happened, and they're getting demands. It's ransomware, but the system shut down, but they don't want to pay, and they just sort of wait it out to see if to see if the problem will go away, and in that time, what they probably don't realize is that the actors are using their emails to try to get into other networks, and in one case, I know successfully. And so in that way, the 24-hour thing is good because it pushes people to actually deal with the problem. And I'm not talking about giant organizations here. They deal with the problem. Brenda says in the chat here, agree 24 hours is too fast. That's almost enough time to figure out what happened. 3 days seems like a good time. Yeah. Yes. Although, I mean, if you look, I do run marketing. I have to say, if you have managed detection response, really quick what happened. And in 24 hours, you would have a better idea. But, Mike, is 24 hours too fast?
Yeah, I think 24 hours is too fast. Problematically, remember who writes legislation. It's not people with science and technology backgrounds. Someday, hopefully, that will change, right? But there's a bunch of lawyers doing this. What they think happens out here, on the ground is probably some kind of strange series of tubes, right? Remember? And, I think when the experts get a hold of this and they get their public comments back, it's not going to be 24 hours. But and we'll see.
Morgan asked a question: what standards? What could be established with alternate private channels? What alternate private channels would you recommend?
Well, the whole point here is to make sure that the federal government knows what's going on so that they see, there's a sector that's having a particular problem, or there's a particular gang that we need to deal with, or there's a tactic that we need to communicate out as, an indicator of compromise or something like that. If you insulate this within your own community, your community will know, federal government will not. So like I say, and an ISAC is kind of a public-private thing. And depending on the rules of how they're going to protect the reporting and, like I say, insulate it from regulatory oversight, this could be a good mechanism for doing this, right? So I think what Morgan's talking about, there's a construct called an ISAO, Information Sharing and Analysis Organization, and President Obama created this notion of ISAOs when he was in office. And a bunch of these popped up, and these were really for voluntary private sector getting together to report amongst themselves and share information. So, it could be a mechanism like that, but I really think this is going to be a database of events curated by Department of Homeland Security, CISA.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, we'll have to see what happens with that one.
Yeah.
All right. We have time for one more topic. I read something about how email is now being used to attack enterprises. That's different from just sending in some bait. what are the authors trying to get across on that one, Mike?
Yeah, what's the example you just made, right? If somebody's in your email, they're sending out email as you to, business associates and things like that, because it will be trusted and it's going to get easier to bite on the bait, and that way you spread your crime, right? So what you're talking about is a paper written by Proofpoint, who knows a lot about email, on how email is being used indirectly to attack with increasing frequency. At least that was one of the takeaways in this paper. Ryan Callenber is, I think, the lead author on this, and Fred Langston and I worked with Ryan at Gardent and VeriSign. So anyway, the paper talks about compromising the email of a business partner that's poorly protected to send in messaging from a trusted address. So rather than going in directly, sending in bait, hoping somebody's going to bite you, come in through a side door. That's just another sign that businesses all have to trust their partners to be doing their cyber like they should, and that assumption is almost always wrong. And couple this now with what was just reported about how you can bypass Office 365 multi-factor authentication in business email compromise attacks. So, there are passwords out there. I mean, there's a number of ways to get credentials for an account. Once you get into an account, the use of stolen credentials is blocked by using multi-factor authentication, right? What Microsoft found was that if attackers use legacy protocols like IMAP or POP3 to exfiltrate emails, they can circumvent multi-factor authentication on Exchange Online accounts when their targets didn't toggle those things off, right?
Oh,
so
interesting.
Right. So, POP3 protocol, it should have died a long time ago. It's still enabled in there. So everyone should make sure they turn off those protocols, and you can't fall back to legacy authentication at all and enforce multi-factor authentication. And I think Microsoft is doing a big cleanup of this right now.
Yeah, interesting. So, these emails that I'm getting from Brenda and Morgan in the chat asking me for Apple gift cards in denominations of 100 or bigger, I should assume that's not really them?
No, that's not really them. I know them both, and that's not really them. They would never do that.
But they would only ask for Xbox gift cards. Got it. Oh, yeah. I'm just kidding. All right. We have time for a kicker. What's going to make everyone feel good after we're not here for, as we say, we're not going to be here for the next 2 weeks? Leave them with a good thing, Mike. What do you got?
Well, the only good thing I have is something that made me feel good, and that is Reality Winner has been released from prison. She hasn't been pardoned.
That's her name. That's her name.
Reality Winner. That's right. She hasn't been pardoned, but she's out early for exemplary behavior. You will remember, or maybe you don't, that she is the analyst that leaked the fact that the Russians were actively messing with the 2016 election with disinformation campaigns, using bots and trolls and some break-ins to counties and other efforts to get the former guy elected. It was illegal to leak that classified information, but it did have the effect of waking everyone up to the power of disinformation in manipulating the gullible, something that we've embraced as a nation and taken to the next level.
That's not heartwarming, Mike. I will tell you something that is heartwarming. Okay. Brenda put in the chat here, no, not Xbox gift cards, bookstore gift cards. You know what? I got to tell you, I was in Friday Harbor last weekend, and they have a great independent bookstore. I think it's called Griffith Bay. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, it's the only bookstore there, and they have a big sign on the front that says, "Buy books from people who buy books from people who love books, not from people who want to colonize the moon." And that is a good bookstore right there.
That is a good bookstore right there.
Go buy books from your local independent bookstore.
I will note that Brenda is an author.
Oh, well, so I think I feel manipulated now. But anyway, anyway. All right, everybody. Well,
all right.
Have an awesome 2 weeks. We'll see you again then. And if you need anything, well, I don't know, find somebody else. Mike and I are taking a vacation, but you can still email the company. All right, everybody. Have a good one and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Yep.